Emotionally Intelligent Husbands by Dr. John Gottman. My data on newlywed couples indicate that more husbands are being transformed. About 35% of the men we've studied fall into the category of emotionally intelligent husbands. Research from previous decades suggests the number used to be much lower. Because this type of husband honors and respects his wife, he will be open to learning more about emotions from her. He will come to understand her world and those of his children and friends. He may not emote in the same way that his wife does, but he will learn how to better connect with her emotionally. As he does so, he'll make choices that show he honors her. When he's watching the football game and she needs to talk, he'll turn off the TV and listen. He is choosing us over me. I believe the emotionally intelligent husband is the next step in social evolution. This doesn't mean that he is superior to other men in personality, upbringing, or moral fiber. He has simply figured out something very important about being married that the others haven't yet. And this is how to honor his wife and convey his respect to her. It is really that elementary. The new husband is likely to make his career less of a priority than his family life because his definition of success has been revised. Unlike husbands before him, he makes a detailed map of his wife's world. He keeps in touch with his admiration and fondness for her, and he communicates it by turning toward her in his daily actions. This benefits not only his marriage, but his children as well. Research shows that a husband who can accept influence from his wife also tends to be an outstanding father. He is familiar with his children's world and knows all about their friends and their fears. Because he's not afraid of emotions, he teaches his children to respect their own feelings and themselves. He turns off the football game for them too, because he wants them to remember him as having had time for them. The new type of husband and father leads a meaningful and rich life. Having a happy family base makes it possible for him to create and work effectively. Because he is so connected to his wife, she will come to him not only when she is troubled, but when she is delighted. When the city awakens to a beautiful fresh snowstorm, his children will come running for him to see it. The people who matter most to him will care about him when he lives and mourn him when he dies. The other kind of husband and father is a very sad story. He responds to the loss of male entitlement with righteous indignation, or he feels like an innocent victim. He may become more authoritarian or withdraw into a lonely shell, protecting what little he has left. He does not give others very much honor and respect because he is engaged in a search for the honor and respect he thinks is his due. He will not accept his wife's influence because he fears any further loss of power. And because he will not accept influence, he will not have very much influence. The consequence is that no one will much care about him when he lives, nor mourn him when he dies. Okay, welcome to the mini story for the Emotionally Intelligent Husbands lesson. Let's get started. This story is told in the present tense right now. Here we go. Bob is a newlywed. He and his wife, Kathy, have been married only 2 months. Unfortunately, Bob is an authoritarian husband. Every day he tells Kathy, "Cook my food! Clean this house! Serve me, woman!" Bob feels he is entitled to be served like a king by his wife. Kathy is very sweet. She's a very sensitive person, and she emotes strongly. She always shows her true feelings. Kathy had a strict upbringing. Her mom told her to always obey her husband. Since she has strong moral fiber, Kathy tries to do what her mom taught. But every day she becomes more sad because of Bob. Finally, she has had enough. She yells at Bob with righteous indignation. "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce!" Bob is so shocked, he has a heart attack and dies. But after he is dead, nobody mourns. Kathy takes his life insurance money and now is very happy. The end. Okay, let's start back to the beginning. All right. Bob is a newlywed. Has Bob been married for a long time? Well, no, he has not. He is a newlywed. Has his wife been married for a long time? Well, of course not. They both got married at the same time. Not a long time. They are both newlyweds. They've been married a short time. How long have they been married? Well, they've been married only 2 months. So they are newlyweds because they have been married less than 1 year. So Bob is a newlywed, and of course, Kathy is a newlywed. They are both newlyweds, using it as a noun. Unfortunately, Bob is an authoritarian husband. Is Bob a tolerant husband? No. He's not tolerant. He doesn't care about his wife's opinions or other people's opinions. Is Bob a flexible husband? No, he's not flexible. He won't change at all. Is Bob a tough boss? Is he that kind of husband? Yes, that's right. He's an authoritarian husband. Is Bob like a dictator? Yes, that's right. Bob is an authoritarian husband. He's like a dictator. He's like a strong ruler over his wife. Bob is an authoritarian husband. Is Bob an authoritarian father? Well, no, he's not an authoritarian father because they have no children. Bob is an authoritarian husband. He's an authoritarian husband. Is Kathy an authoritarian wife? Well, no, Kathy's not an authoritarian wife. The opposite, actually. Bob, however, is an authoritarian husband. And every day he tells Kathy, "Cook my food! Clean this house! Serve me, woman!" Bob feels he is entitled to be served like a king by his wife. We're using entitled here as a verb, actually. Entitlement is the noun, but to be entitled can be used as a verb or an adjective. So Bob feels he is entitled. I am entitled to be served like a king. So, in this case, it's not a noun. Bob feels he is entitled. It means he feels he has the power. He should have the power to be served by his wife. Does he feel he is entitled to be served by strangers? No, he doesn't feel like he's entitled to be served by strangers. Does he feel he is entitled to be served by his own mother? Well, I don't know, maybe, but maybe not. We're not sure, really. Does he feel he is entitled to be served by his wife? Well, yes, absolutely. He feels he is entitled to be served by his wife. Does Kathy feel she is entitled to be served by Bob? No. Kathy does not feel she's entitled to be served by Bob. It's the opposite. Bob feels he is entitled. He has the power. He should have the power to be served by his wife, Kathy. And Kathy, however, is a very sweet wife. She's very sensitive, and she emotes strongly. Does Kathy show her emotions? Well, that's right. Yes, she emotes strongly. Does she express her feelings? Yes, she does. She emotes strongly. She shows her feelings a lot. Does she emote only anger? No. That's not true. She doesn't emote only anger. She emotes all her emotions. She shows all her emotions. She expresses all her emotions. She emotes strongly, and she emotes everything. She shows all her emotions. So Kathy is sensitive and she emotes strongly. She always shows her true feelings. Kathy had a strict upbringing, however. Her mom told her to always obey her husband. Was Kathy's upbringing relaxed? No, her parents were not relaxed. She had a very tough upbringing. Was Kathy's upbringing conservative? Very conservative? Yeah, I think you would describe that as conservative. Her mom was very old-fashioned, very conservative. She had a strict upbringing. Kathy had a strict upbringing. Did Bob have a strict upbringing? Well, no, not really. Bob was spoiled when he was a child. His parents gave him everything. They served him. They let him do anything he wanted. So he was kind of a spoiled brat. But Kathy, however, had a very tough upbringing, a very strict upbringing. Because her mom told her, always obey your parents. Always obey your future husband. The good thing about Kathy is she has strong moral fiber. She always tries to do what is right, what is correct, what her mom taught her to do. Does Kathy have strong moral fiber? Well, yes, she does. Of course, she has strong moral fiber. Does Kathy try to do what is right? Yes, she does. She has strong moral fiber. She tries to do what is right. Would Kathy steal money from someone? No, of course not. Kathy has strong moral fiber. She would never steal from another person. Would Kathy try to kill another person? No, Kathy has strong moral fiber. She would never try to kill or hurt someone else. She has strong moral fiber. Why does Kathy obey Bob? Well, because her mom told her she should, Kathy thinks she must have strong moral fiber and therefore must obey Bob. But finally, she changes her mind, right? Finally, she yells at him because she is sad every day because of Bob. So finally, she yells at him with righteous indignation. Does she talk to him quietly? Well, no, she yells, of course. Does she yell with a lot of anger? Yes, that's right, she does. She's very angry when she yells. She's indignant. She has indignation. She yells at him with indignation, with anger. What kind of anger? Is it anger from being, hurt? Nah, not exactly. No. It's righteous indignation. She feels Bob is wrong and she is right. Bob is doing bad things. And Kathy is a good person, so she feels righteous indignation. She has righteous indignation. She yells at him with righteous indignation. When she yells with righteous indignation, what does she say? Well, she says, "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce!" Is Bob surprised by Kathy's righteous indignation? Yes, he is. He's very surprised by her righteous indignation. So surprised, he has a heart attack. And then he dies. But after Bob is dead, nobody mourns. Does anybody feel sad because Bob is dead? Well, no. Nobody feels sad. Nobody mourns him. Does Kathy mourn him? No, Kathy doesn't mourn him. She doesn't feel sad after he dies. She thinks he's a pig. Right? He's been a bad man, so she does not mourn him. She does not cry. She does not wear black. She does not feel really sad. She does not mourn him. Do Bob's friends mourn him? No, Bob's friends don't mourn him either because he doesn't have any friends. Nobody likes Bob. So Bob is not mourned by his friends because he doesn't have friends. And Kathy doesn't mourn Bob either. Nobody mourns Bob. Nobody feels sad for Bob after he's dead. What happens next? Does Kathy have a good life? Well, as a matter of fact, she does. She gets money from Bob's life insurance, and now she is rich and free and very happy. All right, good job. One more time. This time I'll pause. Please repeat the key phrases after me. Now, don't just repeat. Copy my pronunciation, copy my rhythm, copy my tone. Everything. Copy my emotion. Here we go. Bob is a newlywed. Good. Bob is a newlywed. Okay, very good. He and his wife, Kathy, have been married only 2 months. Unfortunately, Bob is an authoritarian husband. Okay, good. Unfortunately, Bob is an authoritarian husband. Good. Every day he yells at Kathy. He says, "Cook my food, clean this house, Serve me, woman! Bob feels he is entitled to be served by his wife. Okay, good. A little bit difficult. Bob feels he is entitled to be served by his wife. Okay, good. Bob feels he is entitled to be served by his wife. Kathy, however, is a very sweet wife. She is very sensitive and she emotes strongly. Okay, very good. She is very sensitive and she emotes strongly. Good. She's very sensitive and she emotes strongly. She always shows her true feelings. Kathy had a strict upbringing. Good. Kathy had a strict upbringing. Very good. Her mom taught her to always obey her parents and always obey her future husband. Since she has strong moral fiber, Kathy tries to follow her mom's teaching. Okay, very good. Since she has strong moral fiber, Kathy tries to follow her mom's teaching. Okay, very good. But every day she becomes more sad because of Bob. Finally, she yells at Bob with righteous indignation. Okay, very good. Finally, she yells at Bob with righteous indignation. Okay, great. She yells with righteous indignation, "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce." Bob is so shocked, he has a heart attack and dies. But after he is dead, nobody mourns. Okay, good. But after he is dead, nobody mourns. Okay, great. But after he is dead, nobody mourns. Kathy takes his life insurance money, and now she is rich and free and very happy. Okay, very nice. Use your pause button when you do this. Use your pause button often. But now, please use your pause button and tell all of the story. Tell the entire story yourself, out loud. Say it where you can hear it. You don't need to remember every word. It's not a memory test. Just try to use the vocabulary correctly. That's the important part. You can change the details. Doesn't matter. Try to remember the vocabulary. Try to use it correctly. That's what is important. Okay, great. If this is difficult for you, listen to it many, many times before you try speaking. It's okay. Listen to it as many times as you want. Listen every day, a few times, for 1 month if necessary. It's okay. Go slow, relax, take your time. After you understand it completely and easily, then, only then, try practicing speaking with your pause button. Okay, good job. Next is the mini story point of view lesson. I will tell the same story using different time frames, different points of view. See you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome to the mini story point of view lesson for emotionally intelligent husbands. Same story. We're going to change the time a little bit. Let's tell let's tell this story in the past, 20 years ago. 20 years ago. Here we go. 20 years ago, there was a guy named Bob. Bob was a newlywed. He and his wife, Kathy, had been married only 2 months. Unfortunately, Bob was an authoritarian husband. Every day, he would tell Kathy, "Cook my food, clean this house, serve me, woman." Bob felt he was entitled to be served like a king by his wife. Now, his wife, Kathy, was a very sweet wife. She was very sensitive and she emoted strongly. She always showed her true feelings. Kathy had had a strict upbringing. Her mom had told her to always obey her future husband. Since she had strong moral fiber, Kathy tried to do what her mom had taught. But every day, she became more sad because of Bob. Finally, she yelled at him with righteous indignation. "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce." Bob was so shocked, he had a heart attack and died. But After he was dead, nobody mourned. Kathy took his life insurance money, and now, today, she is still very rich, free, and happy. Okay, good. Pause. Please go back, listen to that version a few times until you fully understand how it changed. And then pause and tell it yourself. Tell it in the past tense, starting with the phrase 20 years ago. Now, actually, you will notice every verb is not in the past tense. Some verbs are in different tenses. Don't worry about the names of the tenses. Just listen carefully, notice how they change, and then you can pause after each sentence if you need to and repeat, or you can pause after all of the story and try to tell the entire story, beginning with the phrase 20 years ago. All right, let's jump to the future now. I have a new movie idea. It's a science fiction movie, and it's going to be in 2050. And I'm going to tell you about my movie idea. Here we go. In the year 2050, there will be a guy named Bob. Bob will be a newlywed. He and his wife will have been married only 2 months. Unfortunately, Bob will be an authoritarian husband. Every day he will tell Kathy, "Cook my food, clean this house, serve me, woman." Bob will feel he is entitled to be served like a king by his wife. Now, Kathy will be a very sweet wife. She's going to be very sensitive, and she's going to emote strongly. She'll always show her true feelings. Kathy will have had a strict upbringing. Her mom will have told her to always obey her husband. Since she will have strong moral fiber, Kathy will try to do what her mom taught. But every day, she will become more sad because of Bob. Finally, she's going to yell at him with righteous indignation. "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce." Bob is going to be so shocked, he will have a heart attack, and then he's going to die. After that, nobody's going to mourn him. Nobody will mourn Bob. Kathy will take his life insurance money, and then she's going to be very happy. She will be very happy because she'll be free and she'll be rich. All right. Very good. So that obviously is using the future, right? We're talking about the year 2050. Now you notice I sound like I made a mistake there, but actually I started using the present tense and then I switched to using future. That's okay. Actually, in English, sometimes when we talk about the future, sometimes we use the present tense. So actually, in many cases, you can use both. I changed because I wanted to keep using the future tense only. So just to help you remember it. But in fact, when you talk about the future, you can sometimes use the present tense. So don't let that confuse you. All right. Now let's tell it one more time. I'm going to begin the story with the phrase, since 2 months ago. Okay? Since 2 months ago. Starting 2 months ago. Okay. Since 2 months ago, there has been a couple named Bob and Kathy who are newlyweds. Unfortunately, Bob has been an authoritarian husband during these 2 months. Every day he has yelled at Kathy, "Cook my food, clean this house, serve me, woman." Now during this time, this 2 months, Bob has felt he is entitled to be served like a king by his wife. Now Kathy, his wife, she's a very sweet woman. She's very sensitive, and she has always emoted strongly. She has always showed her true feelings to Bob. Kathy, in the past, had a strict upbringing. Her mom told her to always obey her future husband. Now, since she has strong moral fiber, and during this 2 months she has had strong moral fiber, Kathy has tried to do what her mom taught her. But every day she has become more sad because of Bob. Finally, one day, she's sick of it. Finally, one day, she yells at him. And she yells at him with righteous indignation. She says, "Shut up, you pig! I want a divorce." Well, Bob is so shocked, he has a heart attack and dies. But after he's dead, nobody mourns. Kathy takes his life insurance money and is now very happy. Okay, you'll notice in that one, I use have had, have gone, right? In the beginning. Whenever I'm talking about during the last 2 months, since 2 months ago, it means starting 2 months ago and continuing all up until now. Anytime I'm talking about something that has continued, that started 2 months ago and has continued until now, I'm using have gone, have had, right? But then I change to the present tense. I say, finally one day. Okay, now I change to the present tense. I could change to the past tense. I could have said, finally one day, she yelled at him, shut up, you pig. And then Bob was so shocked, or then I could tell that the rest of the story, the end of the story, could be in the past tense if I say that happened in the past. I decided to tell it in the present tense, meaning I started 2 months ago, I come up until now, the end of the story is told in the present tense. The end of the story is happening, happening recently. But the beginning of the story, I'm talking about what has happened during this whole time, during a period that started in the past 2 months ago and has continued until recently. Okay, again, don't think too much about the grammar terms. You don't need to know present perfect, past perfect. That's not important. What I want you to do is listen many times to each version, pause, go back, listen again, then try to maybe repeat or copy individual sentences, then try to repeat and copy telling all of the story, all of the version, using the beginning phrases. 20 years ago is version number 1. Version number 2, in 2050. And version number 3, since 2 months ago. All right, good luck. See you next time. Bye-bye. Okay, welcome to the commentary for the Emotionally Intelligent Husbands article. I'll just chat about why I chose this and what it means to me. I chose this, I guess, because I myself am hoping to improve my relationship with Tomoe and always trying to be better. This is from a very interesting book by Dr. John Gottman. I'm trying to remember the name of the book exactly. The 7 Principles of Good Marriage, something like that. Anyway, Gottman's interesting, Dr. John Gottman. He's a researcher. He does research on marriages. So his book is based not just on his opinion or experience, but also on research. And what they do is he and his group research marriages, and they try to figure out what causes marriages to succeed and what causes them to fail. And his definition of success and failure are important. Success means that both partners say they are very happy with the relationship. Okay, so that's success. And failure means, number 1, of course, divorce. But it also means, number 2, that one or both partners, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, are very unhappy. So that's failure. So some people remain married, but they're not happy. So that's considered a failure by Dr. Gottman in his research. So they find these groups of marriages, these 2 kinds of marriages, and then they study these people. It's quite interesting. They study them in a very close detail. Of course, they interview them and get lots of information, but they do much more than that. They bring them in to their research, I don't know if you want to call it a lab, office maybe. They bring them onto their office and then many times, and they have them discuss different topics. And sometimes they argue, sometimes they agree, whatever, but they have the husband and wife talk about topics. While they're talking, they measure their heart rate and their sweat glands, how much they're sweating. They also videotape them very closely, especially their faces, their emotions. And after these, videotaped conversations, after this research, they go back, they watch the videotape step by step, like each frame. When they do it, when they watch it very slow like that, they can see very quick gestures, very quick emotions on the face. When you're just looking at normal speed, you don't see them. But when you look at a video and you go slow motion, you can see really quickly some quick emotion show on the face. So anyway, they have all this information, all this data about heart rate and all these videotapes, and then they study them very carefully and they identify, what are the things that are the same for the successful marriages, the successful couples, and what are the things that are the same for the failing couples or the divorced couples or the ones that are probably going to be divorced. And from this research, he has identified different key traits, key things you must do for your marriage to be successful. And this article is one of them. And it's focused mostly on the husband. Other things are focused on the wife or focused on both of them. But for my own purpose, I'm of course worried more about what I can do myself. So this is focused on the husband. And one key trait is that the husbands need to be emotionally intelligent. It means they have to learn how to deal with their emotions in a healthy way. And this has two sides. One side is they have to be able to understand and respect other people's emotions. Of course, their wife's feelings. The husband needs to be able to understand and respect his wife's feelings, but also his children's feelings and his friends' feelings. Just in general, he has to know how to understand and identify and talk about other people's feelings and to be sensitive to those feelings and to care about those feelings. And then the other side of it, he has to be able to identify and understand and communicate his own feelings. So he's got to be able to talk about his own feelings and not just anger, not just I'm pissed off, but also when he's sad and other things. He has to be able to clearly understand those feelings, handle them, and communicate them in a positive way, in a respectful way. And a lot of this has to do with what he calls accepting influence from his wife. This is what Dr. Gottman says. Accepting influence is a key part of emotional intelligence. What does that mean? Well, what it really means, practically, simply, is that the husband has to share power with his wife. He influences his wife, of course. He has some, not control's a bad word. He affects his wife. He changes his wife somewhat, but he also has to be willing to be changed. He has to be willing. He has to let his wife change him. He has to accept her power. He has to accept her influence also. It has to be both ways. So accepting influence, sharing power is very important for marriages, especially now. In most countries, society is changing. Women are getting more power. Those old ideas from the 1950s, man is in control, the man is the leader, the man says what is done and the woman does it. Those ideas don't work anymore. They certainly don't work in America or Europe, as we know, or Latin America. And in Asia, I know this is also changing quite a lot. And that really this doesn't work in Asia anymore either. Simply because women will not tolerate it anymore, right? They're sick of it and they're not going to put up with this anymore. It doesn't matter what men like or don't want or don't want. The women will not accept this anymore. In my opinion, that's good. So I'm quite happy about that. I think it's a good thing. But it's an adjustment. And he's right about that. In the past, men, especially older generation, my father's generation, my grandfather's generation, they did have that entitlement. They had that feeling that naturally men should be the leader. Naturally, men should have the power or more power. And naturally, women should be weaker. They have this strong idea. Society taught them that. Their own family taught them that. So it's hard for them to change. Some of them have a difficult time changing. They feel they're losing that entitlement, and some of them do respond with righteous indignation. They do respond with anger. Now, to be fair, some of them do not. Actually, my own father, I've seen him change quite a bit. And I've known plenty of older men, my father's age. In fact, my grandfather, my mother's father, was not like that at all. He very much shared power with my grandmother. In fact, I would say my grandmother was the stronger one in their relationship. So, we have to be careful. These are general trends in societies, but they're not true of every single person. However, I think Dr. Gottman is absolutely correct that in general, in modern societies especially, things have changed. And to have a successful marriage as a husband, you must give up your power. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you share power. It means you're strong about your own ideas and opinions, but you also respect your wife's strength, and you let her, and you want her to be strong, and you want her to express her opinions, and that it's a partnership, an equal partnership. I think Dr. Gottman's, definitely right about that. If you do this, it creates healthier relationships. I think a lot of men, these old-fashioned men, they feel threatened. They're afraid of this. But actually, I have found in my own life, it's quite positive. It's a lot less stressful when you share power with someone else, when you're a partner. If you have all the power, it seems like it's great. You can, clean my room. But on the other hand, you also have all the responsibility. And that's very stressful. Another thing, I think, from the man's point of view, a woman who serves you, who's not equal, let's face it, it's boring. It's extremely boring. I know for my own part, I don't want a servant. I want a partner. I want an equal partner. I want someone who has strong opinions and strong ideas, who's very intelligent, who's very confident. I can learn from her. And hopefully, I hope she learns from me too. So anyway, it's interesting because I read this article. We studied this article in my class here in San Francisco. And I was a little shocked, to be honest, that about the reaction. Several of the Asian students, especially the men, not surprisingly, disagreed strongly with this article. They didn't like this idea. They thought the man must be the boss, and the woman naturally must follow him. And that is the way, the world is supposed to work. Or, I don't know, God says this is true, or society, or whatever. They still had a very strong idea about this. And to be fair, there was actually at least one Asian woman who thought the same thing, who thought a woman should follow men. Now, for an American, and I'm sure for most Europeans, quite a shock. I was like, I couldn't believe they were saying that. But, I should not have been surprised. I've lived in Asia. However, I have lived in Asia, and I also know that the women in Asia are changing, and that these men may not like these changes. However, they can't stop it. So even if you don't like it, I think you have no choice. You have to adjust if you want to have a marriage, because, to be really direct, if you have this old idea and you marry a woman today in modern life, if you act like this, she's probably going to divorce you. So you can try to be the big, strong boss, but you'll probably find that after a few years or sooner, she's just going to divorce you. So if you really do want a happy family and a happy life, I think you've got to change. And I think that's as true in Japan and Korea and Taiwan and China and Thailand as it is in Europe and America and Latin America. I think it's true all over the world, really. Now, from a woman's point of view, of course, I think this is a very, very positive trend, that women should be equal. They're as equally intelligent, equally smart, equally strong, maybe not physically in terms of lifting weights, but it's not important in modern society anymore. So anyway, okay, that's all. I will see you next time. Hope you enjoy this lesson. Please go to the forums, write your opinions about the role, the proper role for husbands and wives in relationships. Do you agree with my opinions here? Do you agree with Dr. Gottman's opinions and his research? I don't mind. You can disagree with me. That's fine. If you disagree with me, go to the forums and tell me that, AJ, you're totally wrong. That's fine. If you agree with me, that's also great. Write that. Okay, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.